Sharkie and I are launching our private members bill that is called the Fair Work Amendment Protecting Take-Home Pay of All Workers Bill 2017. It's a bill that seeks to negate the Fair Work Commission decision that was brought down in February to cut penalty rates, but it also deals with the entire issue of penalty rate cuts. And what we mean by that is that there's been enterprise agreements done between mainly big businesses and unions that have resulted in penalty rates being whittled away for other workers. And we're sensible about this. We're not just talking about penalty rates that have been traded away for better deals throughout the week. What we're talking about is workers who work on a Sunday, or mainly on Sundays or days where penalty rates or penalty rate loadings apply, who have lost those penalty rates, who are receiving under the award penalty rates and are overall worse off. Our bill does not infringe upon existing enterprise agreements. That would be, according to the legal counsel we received, that would be in breach of the just acquisition terms under the Constitution. So it only applies to enterprise agreements that are either ones that are about to be redone or greenfields agreements. So this is a very, very simple bill doing two things: stopping the Fair Work cuts from July the 1st, and also dealing with the fact that unions themselves have negotiated away some of the penalty rates for workers who are worse off overall, actually. And to prove a point on that, there is a young woman by the name of Penny Vickers, who is currently taking this matter to court. And she's had some wins, but she's still fighting through court on this without union support, I might add, even though that she's a Sharkie delegate. To give you an example of what I mean here, in my electorate, Big W stores throughout North Queensland, back in 2006, this was a deal done by the AWU when Bill Shorten was still around there. They would be paid under the award for a daily wage on a Sunday over $244, but under the agreement that was where the penalty rates were whittled away by the union, they receive only just over $192 for the day. That's a loss of over $51 a day. That's over $2,500 a year lost from retail workers in North Queensland because of these dodgy deals between big business and big unions. So we're going to fix that for those workers who work only on Sundays. And the onus, as far as I see it, is now on the Labor Party. We had a bill that came to Parliament yesterday that failed. I've moved an amendment to Labor's proposed Fair Work Bill, calling it out for its deficiency because it doesn't deal with the secondary issue. So the only bill that actually has some sort of a future in this Parliament will be the one that Rebekha and I introduced to Parliament on Monday. And if Labor are fair dinkum about supporting penalty rates, they need to support this bill. Rebekha?
Thank you, George. This goes one step further than Labor's bill, that would be protecting penalty rates, and I think George makes a really valid point. When you've got workers at some of these really large multinational companies and they're losing $50, $80 on their Sunday shift, we don't think that that's fair, and so we think when there's new agreements that are being negotiated, that the union should be, if they're going to negotiate, should be doing a better deal for those vulnerable workers. And they're often young people that are just getting Saturday and Sunday shifts, and they're missing out, and we don't think that's right, and we want to change that.
George, take questions.
Labor hasn't committed yet on the bill, but if they do, there's potential this could force an election if it passed. Is that something you're prepared to flip on the government?
Well, I don't think it would force an election, to be quite honest. If we got through, all it would do is stop the Fair Work cuts and make things fairer for workers who have their penalty rates whittled away by union deals. So I don't think it will force an election.
If the government wants to bill, a vote on the bill on the floor,
that doesn't automatically constitutionally trigger an election. It just means that the bill's lost on the floor of the House, that the government the bill is won on the floor of the House that the government otherwise wouldn't have supported.
If your amendment doesn't get up, would you support Labor's bill?
Well, Labor's bill's deficient. The question really is, if Labor's bill doesn't get up, and I've got to tell you, the way that it's going to go, if it gets through the suspension of standing orders, the first thing that's going to be voted on is my amendment. My amendment kills their bill because it says their bill is deficient. Now, if it gets through there, the government's going to support that amendment, I assume. Therefore, there's no future for Labor's bill. The only future for any bill in this House protecting penalty rates is this bill we're going to introduce on Monday. So the onus really now is on Labor to support this bill. The government's position is clear. They don't want to interfere in the Fair Work Commission. I'm breaking ranks with the government, but the government doesn't want to interfere with the Fair Work Commission. So Labor's the one that's, had many different positions on this. First, they thought that the Fair Work Commission decisions were clear, that they were going to support them. Now they're not. Now they're saying that they want to intervene. Well, if they want to intervene, they must support this bill.
You say this will support small business. How's that the case if they're going to have to find money to keep paying these people?
Because it sets a level playing field between big business and small business, and that is the major problem with Labor's bill. Most of the big businesses, big W's, KFCs, your big fast food outlets, your big retailers, they've all whittled away the penalty rates for their workers because the unions have agreed to it. And that includes workers who work only on Sundays. So let's be clear about this. We're not talking about workers who overall might be a bit better off or even keel because they've had their weekday hours top-loaded in favour of reducing Sunday rates. We're talking about mums, uni students, others who work only or mainly on Sundays, who overall are worse off week in, week out because those penalty rates have been bargained away. And we're going to fix that. And that's the reality.
Does it have a retrospectivity?
No. I wish it could because the deals are bad, but the advice that we've received is that that would not be constitutionally valid. There would have to be just terms provisions given, and we don't want to make things more complicated. It's very simple, and for Labor and the union movement, my question is, what would you have against this? This is fixing things for some of the lowest paid workers in the country.
Ms. Sharkie, have you got the support of the other crossbenchers, like Bob Catter and the rest of them?
Well, I'm fairly sure that there's support across the crossbench, and I'm sure that they will all be in the chamber to at least hear George introduce the legislation. I'd just like to say though that small businesses in my electorate have said to me, we want to keep paying penalty rates, but it's very hard for us to do this if there isn't protections, and when we know KFC and McDonald's, other people that serve burgers are able to get away with not paying penalty rates on Sundays and getting $50, $60 less per employee that they're paying. We don't think that that's fair for small business. We don't think that that's fair for these vulnerable workers.
Just to go back to that question before, I mean, in my electorate I've got a Coles on one side that pays considerably less to their Sunday workers on Sundays, and a locally owned, family owned fresh fruit store right opposite, one block away, that has to pay more. And that's the problem, is that there isn't a level playing field, and Labor wants to ensure that unlevel playing field continues on. This bill will say no, for the workers who work on Sundays, both big business and small business alike have to pay the same rates. Sorry.
Does this diminish the collective bargaining abilities of workers in the future, particularly some of those that are working and coming from really low starting points, like uni students and like state-owned parents?
So I think this will make the unions have to work harder to create better deals for their employees. That's what this is about. I think that with some of these deals, if you work on a Sunday, you are in a terrible position if that's the only place that you can get work. And we know it's really hard for young people in particular to get work right around this nation. Youth unemployment is really high, and so to take a job where you're potentially earning $80 less for that Sunday shift than somebody across the road, I think is unfair. The unions can do better.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much for that.